Heck yeah. Recently, I was attending a hockey game, and a fan asked me that was sitting next to me, "Are you there to watch your son play?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am. They're all my proverbial sons." And I got a quizzical look, and I said, "Well, I happen to be the general manager of the opposing team." And that quizzical look went to shock, and they said, "How did you get that job?" 88% of professional sports is male-dominated, and in hockey alone, it's 97% white male. My name is Toni Will, and for the past 10 years, I have been the general manager of the Kalamazoo Wings, a men's AA professional hockey team that turns 50 years old this year. As you can imagine, being part of the 3% has been a battle both on and off the ice. It reminds me of a quote from Mark Twain, who's been very popular tonight, that if you find yourself in the majority, pause and reflect. Before I go too far into this talk, I want you to know I am not here to bash men. In fact, I love men. So much so, in fact, I have married 3 of them. True story. One of my mentors is my 81-year-old father, and in addition to 2 beautiful daughters, I have a young adult son as well. What I am here to do is share with you how I turn my perceived weaknesses into strengths. So ask yourself this: have you ever been in a situation where you've been asked to do something, want to change something about yourself, or need to do something and you have no idea how to do it? Well, I'm going to ask you to see yourself in these 2 stories that I'm going to share with you tonight. Picture this, me, Toni, just strutting into Wings Event Center in the winter of 2015, kicking down the door, ripping off my bra, setting it on fire, and yelling, "Woman, hear me roar." That is not what happened. I actually applied for a different job, and the Kalamazoo Wings was offered to me instead. Now, I didn't know anything about hockey. I grew up a recreational athlete. I was a cheerleader and a gymnast. Yes, cheerleading is a sport. And then in my 20s and 30s, I took on endurance athletics. I was a half marathon runner, and I did triathlons of varying distances. But I didn't know hockey. What I did know is business. I had a background in banking and economic development. I could sell. I could build and lead an effective team culture. I was relationship-oriented, highly courageous, and I loved Kalamazoo, the town I was born and raised in. So I said yes. Obviously, I wouldn't be standing on the red dot tonight. What I perceived as a weakness, not having a hockey background at all, and being a minority based on my gender, was actually a strength, because I had little to no emotional attachment to what was happening on the ice. I wasn't a fan. So I could activate the strengths at hand and work on the job day to day. 10 years later, the Kalamazoo Wings has broken many attendance records. We have sold many games out, and we've won many awards in the front office. And yet there is still work to be done. Why? Because I'm a female general manager of a men's professional hockey team, and that is not the norm. So as I moved into that space, someone asked me, "How did you do this, Toni? How did you get the Kalamazoo Wings to where it is today?" And I said, well, I don't know. It's what's called unconscious competence. So I sat down at my desk, and on a standard yellow Post-it note, I wrote out 6 things. These have become my 6 leadership pillars. And to me, to be a leader, I want to disrupt the notion that there's one right way to do things. Said another way, there are multiple paths up to the top of the mountain. So let's dive in. I gave you a preview here. Leadership pillar number 1, go to the experts. There are 30 teams in the ECHL. This is a league that Kalamazoo Wings are a part of. And so I started to go visit these teams. I started with the Central Division, and I worked my way out across the country to learn from the other general managers what worked and what didn't work. While we're competitors on the ice, we are not competitors off the ice because we're not competing for the same discretionary dollar or revenue because we're in totally different cities across the country. I took those learnings and I came back to Kalamazoo to leadership pillar number 2, which is innovate. One of the things I found when I was visiting these other franchises was their sales strategy a decade ago was very what I call the smile and dial, right? Quantity over quality. Make 100 sales calls a day. You pick up the phone, you smile, and you're selling hockey tickets. Well, I wanted to turn that on its head. I wanted to take a longer approach, a relationship-based selling approach. The ROI is much stronger, but you have to be patient. Takes about 3 to 5 years by my estimate at that time. So you take a walk-up ticket buyer, a last-minute ticket buyer, you build a relationship with them, and over time, you walk them up what I coined the sales ladder. So a 3-pack to a 5-pack to a 9-pack, so we get more pre-sales, more people in the seats year over year, more sellouts, more revenue, more PR. That was the innovation. What moved from there was I created a program called Sales Isn't a Dirty Word. And this is, I help other teams think about a different way to sell. Leadership pillar number 3, make mistakes. I celebrate mistakes. This is how we learn, right? So the mistakes have been small, like spelling errors on marketing materials, mid-level, hiring the wrong talent, and then even one time, we had to cancel a game 2 hours prior to puck drop. Now, that is a story for a whole other TED Talk, but it's never happened since, I can tell you that. Why our mistakes are so powerful is because we remember them so much more than we do our successes. And that's why we celebrate them. That's how we learn and grow. Leadership pillar number 4, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Oh boy, there we go. This is very personality driven. I'm a rebel. I love to color outside the lines. And I activate the strengths, Dad, I activate these strengths by implementing different game night themes, such as Rainbow Ice, where we actually dye the ice rainbow, Black Excellence Celebration, Hockey for Her, or loss leader sales strategies. These choices have been controversial, just ask my season ticket holders, and yours will be too, and that's okay. Leadership pillar number 5, macro manage. So one of the things that is really important to me and to my staff's culture is autonomy and empowerment. And that is the definition of macro manage. Micromanage is having your hands in all the details and controlling everything. So as a leader, I want to teach. The 3 most powerful words I say to my staff on nearly a daily basis is, I trust you. Leadership pillar number 6, have fun. This is often overlooked. I've written many business plans, and never is have fun or laughing in them, and I challenge that. Ways we have fun at the Kalamazoo Wings front office. We celebrate birthdays. We call them guilty pleasures. So we have fun food and camaraderie. We also take field trips together, and we visit opposing hockey teams where I get asked if they're my sons. And we learn. We bond on the road together. We grow. Sports is entertainment. It is fun. So this is how the Kalamazoo Wings became what it is today. And then I was thinking, well, these pillars probably could apply to other things. So I promised you 2 stories tonight, and I'm going to talk about the transformation from, in my personal life, something much more that's sacred and sometimes hard to talk about. We've heard a lot about the pandemic tonight. 2020 was a tough year, especially for the sports world. It's really hard to gather thousands of people indoors and social distance. So I took that time to work on me. I set a goal to stop drinking alcohol for 30 days. It's what I coined a Toni timeout because my friends affectionately called me Toni Party Time. Isn't true? I had the full intent of going back to my definition of moderation after those 30 days. 87% of Americans drink, or have tried drinking. That just leaves 13% who have never drank or choose to abstain from drinking. So I go back to that Mark Twain quote. When you find yourself in the majority, pause and reflect. So I paused and I reflected. And what I found was I didn't like my relationship with alcohol. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like how it weaved itself into all facets of my life. And so it was time to make a change. I viewed this as a weakness because I was, even at the thought of changing my relationship with alcohol, how would I be respected if I was no longer bellying up to the bar with the boys in the hockey world, right? But maybe I was asking myself the wrong question. Maybe I'd be respected more because I chose not to drink. But I didn't know how. So, where did I go? Leadership pillar number 1. We're going through it again. Go to the experts. This time, my expert was Google. I typed into the search bar, other ways to stop drinking besides traditional AA. So in case you don't know what AA is, it's Alcoholics Anonymous. I had tried AA. And what I found is that the framework was 100 years old, a little outdated for my taste. So I was searching for more modern methodologies. I found This Naked Mind, Sober Sis, and the Luckiest Club, just to name a few. So I took those and I went to leadership pillar number 2, which is innovate. So my idea with innovation here was to marry the pieces and parts of tradition and more modern. Here's the thing with alcohol. There's a stigma and a stereotype attached to it. If you choose to evaluate your relationship with alcohol, there are labels that are bestowed upon you, even if you don't want them, such as alcoholic or alcoholism, which, by the way, is not even the correct terminology and recognized by the CDC. It's actually alcohol use disorder. So I was eager for different language. I was looking for language and identity that was more empowering. And I also, my part of this innovation was to kick the anonymous part to the curb. So I did that as well. So I choose language such as alcohol-free. Leadership pillar number 3, make mistakes. I could give a whole other TED talk on all the mistakes I have made with Toni Party Time. But I decided that I want to focus the mistakes on how we look at them in the traditional world. So long before 2020, I had shared with you that I stopped drinking with the help of AA. I actually stopped for 15 months. And after 15 months, I thought, I think I'm ready to dip my toe back into Toni Party Time. And I went back out and drank for 3 more years. In traditional circles, that's known as a relapse. But I challenge that. What if we looked at that differently? What if we looked at it as a data point, or points in my case? Science and research shows in that space that data points is all about learning. Instead of that all or nothing thinking or failure of the word relapse, one word, relapse. Change it to data points. You know what I learned in those 3 years I went back out? That I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Leadership pillar number 4, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. No is a complete sentence. Moving the identity or shifting your identity from a drinker to a non-drinker is big. You may have to change the people you spend time with, the events you go to, the places or the people you surround yourself with, and that's okay. You don't have to ask permission to change anything in your life. Leadership pillar number 5, macro manage. At the beginning of story 2, I shared with you that I set a 30-day goal to stop drinking. Well, I kept going. And on day 80, now this is at the end of 2020, I decided that if I was going to be successful, I knew myself well enough that I needed to start closing some loopholes and not control the narrative as much. So, right, macro manage is about autonomy and empowerment. So I decided to tell my world my alcohol-free story on social media. I didn't put any timeline. I didn't say I wasn't drinking forever. I just wanted to talk about how I felt less anxiety, more motivation. And I wanted to be an example for others who didn't like where drinking was going for them during the pandemic. 2020 was a hard year. We all learned that we didn't have control over anything. So I let go of control by telling my world my alcohol-free story. Leadership pillar number 6, have fun. Now I know what you're thinking. Toni, there's no way you have fun, any fun as a non-drinker. Not true, not true. The number one reason I did drink was to have fun. But I actually do have way more fun as a non-drinker. I'm more authentic, I'm more genuine, I'm more confident, I'm more curious. I enjoy the experiences I'm having instead of dulling the edges. Now, let me tell you how I have fun. I love to watch true crime. And if Keith Morrison is watching this, call me. I love a good Dateline episode. I love to travel, and I love to read books. Fun fact about me, I read my age every year. 46 books is the goal this year. And you're probably wondering how I do that. Well, I turned my car into a rolling university, and about half of those books are on Audible. As of October 12th, I celebrated 4 years of being alcohol-free. Thank you. And in that time, I fulfilled a dream to become an entrepreneur in addition to my day job. And I launched Mindfulness Elevated, which is a lifestyle coaching business to help other people from coast to coast change their relationship with substances or reach their fitness and nutrition goals, because I have a passion for that as well. These pillars can be applied to anything in your life, anything. Here are some areas that others have benefited from these pillars. Getting a job, getting a divorce, dating, getting remarried, running a 5K, walking the El Camino, quitting caffeine, quitting drinking, launching a business, launching a podcast. And those are just some of the areas. So what's next for me? Well, I'm writing a book. Do I know how? Nope. But guess where I'm going to start? I'm not going to run you through them again. But it's not a weakness because I don't know how. It's actually a strength because I have the courage to figure it out. So I ask you, as I close this TED Talk, to think about yourself and you. What are your perceived weaknesses that are actually strengths? Thank you.